This is the Johnny Cleveland Podcast, all things Cleveland sports, with your host, John Suchan. And good morning and welcome to another Johnny Cleveland podcast. We are the morning of the big Browns versus Denver Broncos game. And yes, we do have a guest. If you're watching us on YouTube or on Twitter, or if you tune in later on, you'll notice that we have a guest today. It is Jess Place of the Mile High Bronco affiliate with Fans First Sports Network. How are you this morning, Jess?
I'm doing good. I'm ready for a little football today.
Yes, we have a big game this afternoon between your Broncos and our Cleveland Brownies. And, us Browns fans, we have a history with you going way back. And,
Sorry.
And so I'm optimistic this morning as the Browns go in with a 7-3 record, but several weeks ago, it looked like the 1-5 Denver Broncos would be kind of, okay, we'll go out to Denver, we'll beat them. And no, not like that today. The Broncos have run off, I believe, 4 straight wins, and they stand at 5-5, and they've beaten everybody from the Kansas City Chiefs to the Buffalo Bills. How are you feeling about that today, Jess?
I'm surprised. Like when the season started out and we had one win and just piling up the losses, I did not think that we would be at 5-5. I didn't even think that we would get 5 wins all season. So this is a welcome surprise. I'm not going to say it's all gravy, but I'm enjoying the season, which is a turn from how the season began.
Well, before we get into the whole Broncos, your background, I know you guys work with the Mile High. Is it called the Mile High Bronco?
Mile High Broncos podcast. Yeah. I do a show called Something Broncos, and that comes out on Tuesdays. But we have all sorts of shows, betting shows, and all sorts of, it's the one-stop shop for all your Denver Broncos podcast needs.
And Bronco fans are everywhere, right? Because you're not in Denver, you're across the country.
It's true. Yeah, I was born and raised in Colorado, and then I went to college in New Mexico and ended up in Los Angeles for a long time and lived in Nebraska for a year. And now I'm in New Hampshire and still love the Denver Broncos. And the only thing I love more is my Sunday ticket subscription so that I can watch the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I lived in Kansas for 26 years. I grew up here in Ohio, but I moved out to Kansas. So I made it out to Denver a time or two. And the last time I went to a Denver Bronco Cleveland Brown game, I believe I want to say it was around 2007 or 8 or 9. The Brady Quinn was the Browns quarterback, and they traveled out there to Denver, and the Broncos beat up on our Browns.
I think it was a Thursday night game. I think it was, I think I remember that.
So what I remember most about that game was that my son I took with me, he was a 5th grader at the time. And as we got into our seats, the young couple behind us, they were had been drinking quite a bit, and they inadvertently spilled an entire beer over a top of my son. So it was my 5th grade son smelled like a beer hall. So it was quite funny, but he always remembers that because the girl that was sitting next to him was very cute. So he liked the experience. So.
Oh, wow. Anyway. Wow. Just imagine how much that beer cost. It's
right. I know. So anyway, but Denver's a fine city. But we in Cleveland hate your football team. For us older fans have gone back. It ruined my childhood. John Elway and whatnot. So it's hard to get that image out. Younger fans here in Cleveland don't really know what that was like when we traveled out there. Well, first it was the drive and then the fumble. And so, but now we have this new group out there with you guys, and you have Sean Payton as your head coach. You have Russell Wilson as your quarterback. Russell Wilson seems like he's maybe turned a corner or whatnot. It seems like he might be helping drive this winning streak. What are your thoughts on Russell and Sean Payton and where the team and how they've gotten here to this 5-5 mark and run off 4 straight?
Well, I think the less that Russ cooks, the better. If you let him command total control of the offense, you get kind of last year. Nathaniel Hackett, bless his heart, with the Jets, he let Russ do whatever he wanted, and we struggled mightily. And so if you're going to let Russ cook hot dog water. And so that's kind of what we've been doing. It's a lot of passes behind the line of scrimmage. We don't really stretch the field very much with deep passes. We rely heavily on the run game. It is not the sexy John Elway offense of the 1980s. It is very, very bland, methodical, and surprisingly successful. It's not a lot of fun to watch, but it seems to get the job done. We're actually, we're getting field goals and touchdowns now, as opposed to nothing.
Well, I think it felt like all the pressure was on Russell when he first got there, and like you could almost sense it. And now it just seems, watching him the last couple of games, he seems more just not as aggressive. And I guess just seeing Sean Payton on the sideline, I mean, it seemed like everybody wanted Sean Payton fired after 6 weeks of the season. I mean, he's an experienced coach, been with New Orleans all those years. It does say something to have a veteran coach there. It seems like he's kind of helped turn the tide, or to help your Broncos this season. How do you feel about Sean? And do you like him? Do you think he's the long term?
He's definitely the adult in the room. I kind of look back to when Josh McDaniels was fired by the Broncos. Like we needed that like presence, the guy who could bring all the veterans together to get them to buy in, so that the younger guys would buy in. And so it's like there's that John Fox guy, and then now we're back with Sean Payton. He's the kind of guy that everybody can get behind. And now that we're having a little bit of success, like I see that kind of snowballing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My colleagues and I have talked a little bit about your Broncos as we've led into this week, looking at where the Browns and the Broncos have their advantages or disadvantages. With the Broncos, as far as your defense, you guys give up you have given up a lot of yards. Obviously, there was the one game, I think, you guys were involved in the Miami game where you gave up 70 points, right?
I don't remember that. No. Anyway, Miami?
So they're giving up. So are they they're averaging about 400 yards giving up on defense? Is that right? A little bit over that, but
it was an incredible amount. I mean, you can't allow 70 points in a single game and not have your season averages completely skew the opposite direction you want them to go.
Okay, well, what about the run game? You're against we've talked about how the Browns might have an advantage today with the Browns run game against your Bronco defense. Do you see that as an advantage for the Browns, or how do you see that?
It is frustrating watching teams run on us. We give up a ton of yards on the ground. Mm-hmm. I will say it will hurt not having Kareem Jackson, who is suspended again, second time this season. But it looks like PJ Locke will be in support. It seems like he's going to be in. So we're hopeful that will happen, and he might actually be pretty good. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, yeah. I agree. Okay. So, I mean, the Browns have had a pretty good run on with their run game this season, despite Nick Chubb going down early. A lot of Browns fans were very nervous, said, "Oh my God, what the hell are we going to do?" But they've kind of had a run game by committee. Kareem Hunt they brought in. They've got this kid Jerome Ford from Cincinnati in his second year, and they've been many games been running up about 150, 175 yards per run game. Now last week, the Steelers, didn't allow them over 100 yards rushing. That was kind of I don't know if you saw any highlights of that game. There weren't a lot of highlights in that game. And probably the Broncos fans are excited that maybe you've got a rookie Browns quarterback, DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, going against you. Do you think that that's an advantage for the Broncos defense for today?
It can't hurt. We'll take it. I mean, Deshaun Watson. What we have been nervous for Deshaun Watson. I would say we would have taken him seriously. But
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I am fighting the urge to make Deshaun Watson jokes right now, and I'm just going to leave him on the table, and we're just not going to do it.
It is such a hard thing here in Cleveland. I mean, honestly, it is something where, you know, the fan base is really divided. You know, there's a lot of hatred for Deshaun with everything that happened off the field, and people won't give that up. There are people that gave up their season tickets and they will not follow the Browns now because Deshaun Watson is our quarterback. But I'm sorry, I cut you off there.
No, that's fine. The rookie quarterback. I here's the thing about the Broncos is that if there is a former Bronco on the opposing team or a rookie or someone looking to make a name for themselves, they will do it. Like we make nobody's look amazing. And so if you were looking for a breakout game, it could be it for your quarterback.
Well, you know, the kid did play at UCLA for 5 years. He had a really good, solid college career. And I think what has impressed Browns fans this week are listening to him, and his, you know, fans like to go immediately, well, this kid's really, really mature. You know, he says the right things and all this. So we'll see how it all pans out. Obviously, I mean, it's a big step for the Browns have had their struggles the last 2 seasons. This year, finally, they're back kind of on that above 500. Everyone wanted to fire Kevin Stefanski, their head coach, at the beginning of the season again. But he's put a string of wins together now. So where do you see the Broncos having the biggest advantage today?
Yeah, I'll be honest, like this team has been all over the map this year. And so will they have an advantage? I hope so. I don't know. It's the run game is key. Protecting Russ is going to also be key. That we've really struggled doing that this year. And so you got to give him some time. And if we can't give him some time, then the run game has to be successful. It's really all hinges on our ability to score points. And so we come out like, it's kind of like the Mike Shanahan, like Sean Payton scripts the first like 10 plays. And usually it seems to be okay. Like we go down and we score, unless we get a turnover early and then we panic and always end up kicking a field goal. And so I honestly, I think, you know, it's like the old adage. It's like, well, it really comes down to our ability to score points to win this game. So, I hope we score a lot.
Jess, let me pause real quick for a commercial break, and we'll be right back. This is the Johnny Cleveland podcast, part of Fans First Sports Network and the Fanatical Elves Network. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back here on the Johnny Cleveland podcast.
That was amazing,
right? Right? Did you like those commercials? Yeah.
I love the first one and the second one. It was great.
And the third, right? So, you know, are you guys scared of the Browns defense? Myles Garrett? Yes, absolutely. That's the number one bugaboo
that my partner, I do a show on Tuesdays, and he was most concerned about the defense, and so much so that I was kind of surprised that he thought that would be our downfall, that that the Broncos would lose because of how lethal the Browns defense is. Myles Garrett's amazing. Like he is amazing. Even though he didn't recognize Kyler Murray. I thought that was a great video. I love that.
Right. He's having a hell of, like, he's been here 7 years now. And I will say, watching and listening to him over the years, he's really enjoying this year. Obviously, the Browns have brought in Jim Schwartz, which really the defensive coordinator has kind of changed kind of the mindset of our defense. And Myles is getting the benefit of playing with all these other guys now, like Dalvin Tomlinson, Shelby Harris, and uh, Smith, Zadarius Smith, and he's just got a better supporting cast, and I think that's really helping him. He's got 13 sacks. Hopefully, he got a few more today. But yeah, so that's what I mean. I think Browns fans are kind of holding their hat, thinking that the way they're going to win this game is through their defense again, and they've been causing some more turnovers and whatnot. The Browns are running off 2 wins now against the Baltimore Ravens and the Steelers, which rarely happens. They've beaten all 3 teams in the division. So, but I am nervous about going out there to play your Denver Broncos. Where do you see the Broncos going this? I mean, they're 5-5. I mean, can anybody stop them? They've won 4 in a row. They've got Russell Wilson, who's been an all pro all these years and a great coach. Do you think that they can get all the way to the playoffs and beyond that?
The only team that can stop the Denver Broncos is the Denver Broncos. Yeah. I think that they will probably do a pretty good job of it. I don't know. It's anomalous. Yeah. I don't know if this is a good team. I was super furious for the first 5 weeks of this season. I've never been so mad as a Broncos fan, or hurt, or just I felt lied to. It was not a great start to the season. I did not think that they were going to do anything. And so when they beat Green Bay, I was like, we beat the Bears, but they weren't dazzling wins. It wasn't 70-20. It was nice. And suddenly we beat the Chiefs and the Bills, and now we're, Minnesota. And it's maybe we actually do know how to play football. Maybe I was totally wrong, and I'm sorry. And I'd like to apologize to defensive coordinator Vance Joseph. I did not say those things. I may have written them, but I did not say those things.
Yeah.
I honestly, I would love to make the playoffs. That would be awesome. I don't think they would make very much noise in the playoffs, but I think they have a shot if they can hold this thing together long enough.
Well, I think see. They won that game against the Chiefs, right? A couple weeks ago out there in Kansas City. And that's kind of your rival. Aren't the Chiefs considered one of your main rivals?
Yeah, it's the Chiefs and the Raiders, and it's just because we hate the Raiders that we include them, even though they've been
everybody
awful
hates
for
the
so
Raiders.
years.
We all hate the Raiders, man.
Red Right 88.
Let's not. Oh man, you had to do that.
Sorry.
No, it's okay because that actually was the moment in my childhood that that year was the first year I really started getting into the Browns, and I'm calling the Browns this year the Cardiac Kids 2.0 or 3.0. Because they have had so many close wins and comeback wins toward the ends of these games. And it reminds me of a lot of that 1980 season. And then the tragedy that you just mentioned, Red Right 88. And then that followed a few years later with you said you grew up out in Denver, right? So were you?
I did. Yeah.
Did you that 86 game, 87 with the playoff game with John Elway driving at 98 yards? Were you watching that? Were you?
Oh yeah. My whole family, I remember that very vividly. And one of the kind of lost facts of that game was that there was kind of this friendly. I don't know. There was this kind of rivalry between the Cleveland, I think it was the Plain Dealer, and the Rocky Mountain News. And so they put full page ads in each other's papers, full page cartoons. Oh. And I remember seeing wow, this must be a really big deal because there is this full page cartoon of Cleveland kind of mocking the Denver Broncos in our paper. How could they do this? Right. And then you read about it and it's oh, we did the same thing. I remember that first, and then I remember the games. And for as devastating as it was for the Browns, that it was as exciting for the Broncos because we only had that one Super Bowl victory. We didn't have those AAFC championships in the 50s. We had one Super Bowl loss to Tom Landry's Cowboys.
That's right,
and that was it. Right. And so that was the high watermark for us.
Yeah.
And so. It was a really big deal.
I don't think, obviously, us Browns fans, I mean, we were so, when that moment happened with Elway and that whole team, that was, I mean, I actually rewatched that drive a couple weeks ago. And I mean, it was a fantastic drive that I mean, it's just crazy how these things happen. But back in 86, or when the playoff game was in 87, in January, I don't think, fans of the Browns thought, okay, I mean, it was awful. But what really hammered home the brutalness of playing your Broncos was then, I think it was the following year, right? That then we go to play you out in Denver. Was that a couple years later, or was it the following year? I think it was.
That was the following year. That's
Yeah.
Jeremiah Castile with the strip on Ernest Miner.
I mean, we have a broken couch at our house because my best friend at the time, Doug, he was so mad that he in my house like started pounding it and jumping up and down and broke the leg of this old couch that we had. It did not go over very well with my father, but anyway, yeah, it was just that was just awful for Browns fans. But so that really was where it kind of, made it all the worse. But no, for your Broncos, I mean, that was a great stretch for you guys, except for, like you said, they got the Super Bowl win. They didn't get the Super Bowl anytime during that period, right? It was a little bit later.
It was the 90s. Yeah. It was much later. Yeah.
Yeah.
We saved you guys the embarrassment of getting hammered by the Giants and the Redskins.
Well, that's what you think would happen, but no, I mean, and the
legend of Doug Williams was born against us. Like, it's,
yeah. No, it's a lot of fun. Broncos fans you guys are a very passionate fan base. It's funny because I was watching some college football yesterday with my kids who are traveling in and over the holidays. And so they live out in Seattle, and we were commenting on, they've gone to a couple Washington Husky college games. And I don't know if you like the college game, but, they were just comparing notes of fans, for example, in Washington, to like Browns fans or Ohio State and Michigan Wolverine fans, because we had the big game here, and it's just like night and day. They're just so polite, and they don't really get loud and obnoxious up there in the great state of Washington. But I don't know what you see where you're at, or if I just think that's kind of funny because I think Denver fans are very passionate. I think they know their football. They've seen a lot. When I've been to the Bronco game like years ago, that was I mean, I just remember that their fan base was really into it. So
yeah, we do like football. Denver is primary. I mean, even though the Nuggets won the championship, we are a football town, and that's what has made these last few years so awful. Is like that we've never seen anything like this. Like, we've never been this bad before, and so we may be a little entitled, and we don't really know how to handle it, and we handle it poorly. I especially me. But I will say my wife is from Washington, and a lot of her family is there. And I will say that with regard to the Broncos, especially because the Seahawks used to be an AFC West foe, that has not been my experience. They are outwardly hostile, and they do not like us.
Well, maybe it was just because it was the Washington. Maybe it was a college game. That was the feeling yesterday when we were looking at the fans, because we had just watched the Ohio State Michigan fans, where the silly Wolverine fans go completely crazy. They think they're superior.
I am so sorry. I have a good buddy who is from Ohio, huge Browns fan. He was so looking forward to the game yesterday, and I felt. I mean, my heart goes out to you guys to get beaten by a Harbaugh-less Michigan team.
Yes. Well, and I live here in Columbus, and I had I was kind of born and raised up in the Cleveland area, but so now I live down here, and like Columbus is it's like the Buckeyes are like a professional team, the way that they treat their news and everything. And so this town was like a ghost town yesterday during the game, and now it's just losing 3 to that team from up north is just godforsaken. It just can't happen. So we'll see what happens with Ryan Day. Hearing all sorts of rumors, but
I have been hearing those rumors from my buddy as well. So we'll see.
Yeah. Do you guys have a good like you're in New Hampshire right now with the Broncos? Do you have a fan base? Do you have fellow Bronco fans that you can meet up with there in New Hampshire when you watch games? Or you have Sunday Ticket, but I didn't know if Browns fans have the Browns backers. We have this worldwide organization. Do you guys have an organization like that, or do you go places?
New Hampshire is a teeny tiny state, but yes. I do have a bunch of Bronco fan friends up here, and Twitter is amazing, and I am connected to so many different Broncos fans that I don't feel like I'm isolated. I have a healthy contingent of Patriots fans that are Broncos sympathetic, which I feel like I've made some real headway with them, because we are not friends. We are definitely rivals. But with the Browns backers, I'll tell you, I have friends back in Los Angeles that are part of the West Hollywood Browns backers. And a girl I went to college with, every week posts about, these photos of her showing up at the same bar with the same dudes. And it's like a big deal. And so the Browns are healthy. All across the country.
I was the president of the local Browns backers there in Wichita, Kansas. We called ourselves the Oz chapter, and they're still very strong there. They have 40, 50 people that show up every Sunday at the local sports bar, and so it is a very big commitment. The loyalty is there. So all eyes will be on this game this afternoon with out there in the Mile High City. You still call your stadium the Mile High Stadium, or?
It'll always be Mile High. I don't know. They call it's it's some retirement company that also sponsors the Chiefs. We don't. No.
Well, I'm final thoughts before I let you go. And again, you guys can find Jess's podcast, and they're part of the Fans First Sports Network here. It's the Mile High Bronco affiliate. Where can we find you? You have other shows out there. Any final thoughts on?
You can follow us at MH Broncos Pods on Twitter or X or whatever they call it now. We're out there doing our Broncos thing. So if suddenly you're like, wow, the sound of Jess's voice is amazing, I think I'm going to follow the Broncos now. That's where you can find us.
Right. That's not going to happen, but we appreciate it. It would be a cold day in hell, but no, Jess, I really appreciate your coming on the show today. This is, we're getting our feet off the ground here on our affiliate, but I know you've got a strong following. So spread the love to your Broncos fans. Tell them all about our Fanatical Elves Network. Hear the enemy talk. We've got a great group of guys here too that provide a lot of different views on the Brownies. So Jess, as always, thank you so much for coming out on a Sunday morning. I really appreciate it. Hopefully it'll be a good game today. What's your final? Do you have a final verdict if you had to make a prediction?
I think it's going to be 21. I think I said 21-9. I picked the Broncos to win for the first time this season, except for week 1.
Yeah.
And so they will probably lose.
21-9. That's cool. So that's okay. Well, you're going to shut down our offense. That's impressive. I mean, we don't have a rookie quarterback. I mean, I could see that. I really could. I'm not going to predict that because I'm a Browns fan, but I could definitely see how that could happen. I think our Browns team has struggled. I think everyone's complaining all the time about our offense and their coach, Kevin Stefanski, even though he's really called a really good season. We'll see how that all pans out, but I'll go with the Browns in a close win. I'm going to say something like 24-19 or something like that. I'm thinking they're going to pull it out on the other end. But thank you so much again for joining us this morning. I always finish our show on the Johnny Cleveland podcast by reminding everybody too. That's right. Remember to keep smiling, everybody. Take care and go Browns.
Yay.
Got the closing credits here.